All right, traders, good afternoon. This is Christian from Hertz Tribeca at Trade Group and at Ease. Thursday, April 28th. More earnings reports that are coming out today. Apple just hit the tape a little while ago. It's about 4:45, so that was about 15 minutes ago. First things first, risk disclaimer in front of you. Everything that we're going through is for information purposes only, not giving out any any recommendations or anything of that nature. So yeah, we'll talk about a couple of these reports after the close. Apple closed at 163.64. It's up $1. That's it. I'm surprised. I thought the numbers were very, very strong when we look at the Apple report. I mean, these numbers are just like, they're startling. Revenue $97 billion versus an estimate of $94 billion. And when you go through these line items, the numbers are just very, very strong. In addition, they announced a $90 billion stock buyback plan. Just to talk about that, in case you're not familiar with what buyback plans do, is the company basically, sets once they get out of their earnings period, they will set days where they are essentially buying over the day, like through like a VWAP algorithm. So that, will give the stock an underlying bid to it on the days that they're in there buying shares, and when a company announces that type of, and they do have discretion usually when they're going to go ahead and buy back the shares, but it should provide a nice tailwind for the company next quarter. But I'm surprised the stock's only up 165. It didn't even break out of this week's value area, so not that great of a reaction. And if you look at the 5-minute, of course, we always look at these version point of controls where there's, supply demand, basically, where price hasn't been before, where there's been a lot of volume. So we almost got to that 170 VPOC. But again, just kind of tells you a little bit about what you're seeing in tech right now. Amazon, which is actually not labeled a tech company or not categorized as one, it's consumer discretionary. This one did miss earnings and is down considerably, 26.10. I did not play either one of these. I didn't have an earnings trade on for either one of these. It's just too difficult, I think, to play that. And right now, which is kind of just the main message of this video, is that this market is giving us some really good day trading opportunities. I've gone through this, time and time again in these videos. And if you're a regular viewer, I'm more of a swing trader than a day trader, but I will day trade when this market is giving us opportunities. And right now, especially on the long side, and, because we are seeing price action below the 200-day moving average for the major indices, on the long side, it is just much better to be trading that way, to be day trading. On the short side, a lot of things to the short side continue to work. We've seen just a lot of growth names continue to move down. But it was kind of interesting to watch and hear, there's a lot of jokes being made at this point regarding the ARK funds. I'm not going to, I've participated before, not in jokes, but just to say that the way that they go about their business is not for me. Continuously buying names that are in downtrends, I think, is a major no-no. I've learned I don't want to say very, very early in my trading career, but I've learned about trend trading over the years and just realized that there's just way too much risk. Risk management is a big key of what I do, and why, I talked about on Twitter last night. I also talked a little bit, I think, in yesterday's video about, how I'm slightly positive for this month, right? And that's because I'm exercising a lot of discipline in what I'm doing, even though this market, I haven't been participating in everything to the downside, which I know for people that have been shorting, when you've got, the NASDAQ, or when you've got the NASDAQ 100 down 12%, there's certainly a lot of money to be made on the short side. But, overall for my system and what I do, which is mainly play things on the long side. And I was long or short the ARK fund till yesterday. I actually covered it yesterday, which was the SARK ETF. But, I think how you get through these periods, and certainly I've been through them before. I traded institutionally. for Merrill Lynch back in the day, 2007 to 2000. I mean, I traded longer than that, but just the period of volatility, that volatility from 2007 to 2009, like I definitely learned my lesson at that point. And I think what you're going to find is newer traders this last year and a half is, lessons to be learned. And I think, if that's happened to you, everybody goes through that, right? Everybody, I think, sees in their trading career some point where we're in, either a heavy bear market or a big, downturn in the market. And really, just to speak kind of, positively about what you might be, even if you've lost money this year or last year, and you were just kind of getting your feet wet in trading, this is just it's part of the process, right? And it's really difficult to learn, a disciplined trading route when you haven't gone through it, gone through the pain of this. This fund, they have no excuse because the fund manager has been through downtrends, and it doesn't seem like they learn. If you go back and you listen to the history of this fund manager, they had the same conviction going back in the year 2000, and it didn't end well for them then either. So it's striking to see institutional funds do this type of thing where they just keep adding to losers. And I think this fund is down 48% year to date. One of the things that we talked about in yesterday's video is, the argument that I keep hearing is 5-year time horizon. I've got a long time horizon. Remember, from what I said in yesterday's video, I don't want to lose money on any time frame. So why would I want to lose money over the long term? I don't know. I don't get it. I'll move on from there. Let's talk about the indices. But it's tough not to talk about this because it is very interesting to, hear institutions do this type of thing. And certainly I'm not picking on ARK alone. There's a number of other funds who have continued to add in downtrends in it, and their performance speaks for itself. Really, that's the metric, right? It's not how well you sell. It's not how well you look good when you say these things and how confident you are. It's your performance. That's the end of the day, is whether or not you are good at what you do in terms of trading. It's not how well you sell it. It's not how confident you are when you go on TV and you speak. It's really the performance. That's the driver. So that speaks for itself. And I think if you go back and you reflect, first of all, I've always said this, and I continue to put out my results month after month. I'll put out my results, of course, this month. But, if you are running a service or if you are running a fund and you're not putting out your performance, right, I just don't think that you're being honest with people about, your trading system and how it works through the good times and through the bad. I think it's very important, right? Because at the end of the day, that is the yardstick that everybody is compared to. So let me get to the, so sorry to go off track, but these are very interesting times right now. So what does this look like? I started to say in the beginning of this video, something that I've been saying now for the last few weeks is that one day is not a trend. I especially say that when we rally, that one day is not a trend because we are in a downtrend. By definition, we're below the 200-day moving average. Yes, we have found some support here, which is 41.48. I hope that we hold that bottom of value, but hope is not a trading plan, right? So, we'll just kind of have to see how this shakes out. And I continue to be positioned lightly. And I'm really thinking about next week. Always these earning seasons are very difficult to swing trade in. They're a very challenging environment. You've got some names like we just talked about, Amazon going down. You've got Apple going up, although it's just a little bit. And we've seen that with a number of companies so far reporting. So it's very difficult to figure out which ones are going to be the leaders. I like to wait till the dust settles and you could see for yourself, right, which names are doing, have done well, how they respond to earnings, which runs rally back, those could possibly set up for your next quarter's leaders. And I think really that's what I look to achieve coming out of earnings season. And then, of course, I think next week is going to be very interesting. Is the Fed going to blink next week? And that's something that we're just going to have to wait for on Wednesday, right? We had numbers that came out today. GDP is a lagging indicator, right? But we did get a lower than expected GDP, right? And you got personal consumption data that came in lighter than expected. Core PCE came in a little bit lighter than expected. So what is the Fed going to do? They've backed themselves into a corner. They have said that they're going to raise interest rates so many times this year. I can't even, put together, is it 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 times are they going to raise interest rates, which all these Fed speakers have said. Can they actually do that, or is it all just talk? I've said a number of times, my stance has been, I don't know why they're not just raising interest rates 10 basis points a month. You would get to where you need to be if you just took that stance, maybe made it 15 basis points a month, rather than just standing still and not doing nothing for now a month and a half. So I would assume they're going to do 50 basis points, but it's really going to be just like an earnings call. What is the guidance going to be for Powell? Is he going to say that they're still going to raise rates as furious as they've said that they are? Which some of the Fed speakers that we've heard from. If that happens, we could continue to see lower prices, in my opinion. Right? It's a headwind for stocks. They're kind of hanging on by a thread here. And if he comes out and says, we're going to raise rates and wait and see type of thing, then you could see a more sustained rally. Maybe institutions will be a little bit more comfortable with putting money to work at that point. Also, the other thing is too, I talk about this a lot, but the end of the month is tricky. And I think tomorrow will be tricky too, because, you're going to have month end and you probably have some institutions moving around their portfolios. And then when we go back to the beginning of the month, half the time institutions put new money to work. I don't know if that's going to be the case this month, but it could be. So, so all of this said, right, and where we're sitting here, which is just above support, but we're not really too far away from support. I think that I'm much more happy to be in a much more higher cash position, right? And I've been saying that, basically since the middle last week. I took a lot of my commodity exposure, which is basically how I've been trading this market, commodities and some of the more defensive areas of the market. But this is just too, this is too difficult of a market to be sticking your neck out, I think, anyway. And if you look at the VIX, which did chill out a little bit today, but climbed back to a 30, this market just continues to move very, very fast. And I think the important thing is to recognize how fast this market is, how difficult it is. I was talking to a couple traders today and they were saying, I just can't get the timing right in this market. Hey, it's not you, it's this market. You have to recognize when this market is more difficult and then adjust your trading plan, right? I know a number of traders have been talking about this too, but one of the hardest things to do as a trader is to just sit back and do nothing, right? And wait for things to kind of come to you, right? And that's the name of the game that we're in. Right. So here's my trades for the day. I'll go over a couple things. I was actually playing some SQQQ. I've been kind of doing that back and forth. I think last Friday I made some money in SQQQ when stock sold off. And then I kind of flip a little bit to TQQQ for day trades, nothing more than that. I was also in some Arch, which we've talked about, the coal names acting well. I took this thing off again using the value areas to scalp and to trade a little bit on the 5-minute, but I took this thing off right at the top of value. This was a nice trade. Another trader at Tribeca Trade Group brought my attention to this name. It was a name that we talked about yesterday in the trading room, but said, hey, this thing is having a nice little inside day. So I picked this thing up in here and took it off right at 175, not greedy at all. Here's my last target. So again, that's just scalping, right? I did that with, I actually tried some Marvell. I thought with Qualcomm having good earnings that the semis might get going. I was right, but I was a little bit too early. So I took one target and then I took this trade off. waited for, the performance to get a little bit better. I actually tried some Shake Shack too to the short side. I didn't like, if they stay, look at what Shake Shack ended up doing. All right. So it held in there. So I don't need to mess with a short right now, especially with that name reporting earnings. So I took that one off for a small loss. I got into some NVIDIA, just recognized that semis were very strong. And again, was not very, did not stay in that trade very long either. Again, just too difficult. Scalping, day trading is fine. A couple names I'll bring to your attention. I've been looking at the energy group, going back and forth between different charts. I like this MRO. Unfortunately, this name reports earnings. So does MPC next week, but these charts look very good. The refiners look really good. Look at what Valero is doing. One of the strongest energy names that I see out there. Right, this is a chart I posted the other night on Twitter, and look at this thing extend to new highs. So the refiners were really, really strong. Right, that's Valero. A couple other names. ARO had a really nice day today too. Again, it's tough because earnings are so mixed in right now, but nice strong volume on this move. And I like to see that. I like to see this test of the 20-day and the 5-day moving average, and price be able to kind of hold it and then carve back up here. There's a lot of names that are not there yet in this space, which I keep looking at. Oxy's actually, let me take that back. Oxy's trying to turn the corner there just a little bit further, and we get back above these 2 moving averages, but definitely holding that 50-day moving average, which is nice. Another darling is Devon Energy. That actually perked up a little bit today. Crude was strong today. It got back to 105. So I'm looking for this pattern of lower highs. I'm looking for this to change. So I would really like crude to get over 107, 108 to get out of this pattern. Right, here's a lower high. Here's a lower high. So far, another lower high, but we don't know yet because we're still involved in this turn here. So something to keep an eye on. On the tech side, I did actually add this position today. I really like the performance of how this thing has been handling this. Again, relative strength within the group. Take a look at, XLK. Take a look at the picture of XLK, right? Below the 200-day moving average for tech. IGV software, also the same thing. Look at how much better TENB is acting. Right. So again, I always go towards the relative strength. I did start a position in this one. Again, I'm not taking any big positions here, but I did start a position in this one. Another one that I'm watching too is Cadence. Remember, this had earnings the other day, reported on a pretty tough day. I'm watching for this to get back above the 200-day moving average in CDNS. All right, guys, that's enough for one video. Have a great night, everybody. I'm looking forward to the draft tonight. Some non-trading, and the Giant. I usually get very disappointed with my Giants, but we'll see what happens. I'm optimistically watching tonight. Have a great night, everybody. See you tomorrow.